Dream Children, A Reverie, Charles Lamb, 1775 to 1835. Question and answers. Recording from Helps to the Study of English Honours, Calcutta University, New Syllabus, Honours Paper 7, Creative Writing, 8 essays and modern prose with text. General editors Professors Roy and Chakraborty, editors of several English texts and notes for BA, General and Honours course. Joy Durga Library, BA College Row, Kolkata 7,09,000. Published by Satyajit Sanyal, 8A College Row, Kolkata 7,09,000. No date. Page 59 to page 61. Text, which has already been recorded in the previous file. Page 62. Life and Works. Para. Charles Lamb, the amiable essayist, was born in London on the 10th February 1775. His father, John Lamb, was a barrister's clerk who, with 7 children, had to fight hard against poverty. At the age of 7, Lamb entered into Christ's Hospital through the patronage of Samuel Salt, who obtained a presentation for the child. Here Lamb made the acquaintance of Coleridge, an acquaintance which soon ripened into a friendship lasting throughout their lives. In 1789 he left school owing to family poverty, and in 1791 entered the South Sea House, where the friendly Salt was a deputy governor. In his scanty leisure, Lamb threw himself into the joys of reading. In 1792 he obtained a clerkship in the accounts office of the East India Company, in whose service he continued till 1825, his salary rising to £800 a year. The drudgery of his life in this office and his reaction to his retirement on a pension of 2/3 of his salary are set forth with such pathos and humor in The Superannuated Man. Para. In the meantime, Lamb had his share of domestic misfortunes. It was in course of one of his visits to Hertfordshire, where his grandmother, Mrs. Field, was a housekeeper to the Plumers, P-L-U-M-E-R-S-P capital, that Lamb fell in love with the lovely Anne Simmons, S-I-M-M-O-N-S, called in his aces by the name of, quote, Alice Winterton, unquote, who later on married a pawnbroker named Bertram, B-E-R-T-R-U-M, bracket, wide trim children, bracket closed, stop. The failure in love accentuated the strain of insanity that was already in him, and he had to spend 6 weeks in a madhouse of Hoxton. His father became peevish and the mother became invalid. In 1796, a great tragedy befell the family. Mary Lamb, his sister, here the spelling is M-A-R-R-Y, may be a printing mistake. His sister, in a fit of insanity, killed his mother with a table knife and wounded the father when the knife was snatched by Lamb. Mary's only place was the lunatic asylum, but Lamb offered to be her guardian, and the alternative was accepted. It was something heroic in a brother who'd set aside all hopes of married life in order to look after an incensed sister. One of Lamb's elder brothers too had died meanwhile. Para. Lamb started as writer about 1795, experimenting both in verse and prose. His first fiction, Rosamund Grey, Rosamund Gray, came out in 1798. In 1807, Lamb and Mary wrote the famous Tales from Shakespeare, Mary doing the comedies while Lamb dealt with tragedies. Lamb already had become friends with Hazlitt, Hazlitt, the brilliant critic. In 1820, Hazlitt introduced Lamb to the editors of the London magazine, to which he began to contribute regular essays under the pen name of Elia, E-L-I-A. These were later published under the name of Essays of Elia and the Last Essays of Elia. Para. In his last days, Lamb lived in his own house at Islington, Islington. His health was failing. The death of some of his friends, especially Coleridge, depressed him. In December 1834, owing to an accidental fall, he developed erysipelas, erysipelas, which brought about his death. Page 63. The personality of Lamb. Para. Lamb is one of the most intensely personal of English essayists. He always speaks of himself in print. His essays are so many autobiographical fragments, so that it has been possible to reconstruct with little efforts the inner as well as the outer life of Lamb. Para. The personality of Lamb that is revealed in his writing is an engaging and amiable one. A sensitive humanity is the main note of his personality. A genuine love for man is expressed in all his writings. Quote, he had originality and delicacy of thinking, sincerity without a spot, firmness and kindness of heart, friendship that was beyond words, and toleration for the infirmity of men, who sympathize with all the classes and conditions of men as readily with the sufferings of the tattered beggar and the poor chimney sweeper's boy as with the starry contemplations of Hamlet, H-E-M-L-E-T, the den, spelling mistake perhaps, or the eagle-flighted madness of Lear, bracket Proctor, bracket closed, unquote, stop. Along with this, there is in him a love for animals. Besides what sweetness, courage, honesty, affection, gentleness, sympathy, and humor we find in him. Indeed, he might be well called Saint Lamb, though he would have hated to be so called. Nevertheless, that word brings out the great nobility and gentleness of his character. Quote, gentle-hearted, unquote, is the epithet that Wordsworth applied to him, and this has clung forever to his name. But this does not mean that he was a weak and sentimental man who loved to shed tears as popular imagination has pictured him. On the other hand, he had the sterner stuff in him. On this point, the excellent remark of Compton-Rickett, Compton-Rickett, is worth quoting, quote, the reiterated apostrophe to the gentle Charles apostrophe, the references of Lamb as a writer that suggest him as a quaint, soft-hearted babbler, or irresponsible jester, convey a wrong impression of man's personality. Stop. Tender he was, inasmuch as his intense humanity made him tolerant and charitable to those around him. But, but there was behind the tenderness a stern inflexibility of character. Stop. The man who could deliberately put aside his youthful dream of love, who could set himself to watch over and guard, unremittingly and uncomplainingly, a mentally afflicted sister not for a brief space but for a lifetime, and who could fight so grimly and persistently his own weaknesses, handicapped as he was by something of the same darkness that was always obscuring his sister's life, Such a man was not the mild sentimentalist of popular imagination. Stop. There is a strain of iron in a nature that could shape his destiny along these lines of self-discipline and disinterested affection, and compel the love and admiration of fiery, impatient souls like Hazlitt. Stop, unquote, para. Lamb as an essayist. As an essayist, it is Lamb's chief distinction that he introduced the intimate, familiar essay in English literature and inspired many subsequent writers. His essays are deeply and subtly personal. The subject is always himself, page 64. Not, however, the more individual Lamb, but Lamb as he was connected with his numerous friends and objects of London, the city he loved so much. Accepting the fact of his insanity and his personal religious views, there is no minute detail of Lamb's inner and outer life that he has not revealed in his essays. He always takes his reader into confidence, establishes a bond of sympathy with them, and speaks with an engaging frankness, mingling fact with fiction, and thus making the whole essay something deeply interesting. There is no strain of vanity or egotism in his self-revelations. He always writes with a delightful humor. Para. This brings out to the leading quality of Lamb's writings, namely, his inimitable humor. Lamb is, in the opinion of many, the finest of English humorists. He had ears ready and eyes always open for the odd and the strange, and this he made the object of laughter. Not a cruel, quote, sardonic laughter of a cynic, but of one who is full of sympathy. Stop. This is why his humor has been called a, quote, rainbow humor, unquote, in which laughter and tears lie side by side. As Compton Rickett has justly observed, Cologne, quote, humor with him is never far from tragedy, semicolon. Through his tears you may see the rainbow in the sky, semicolon. For his humor and pathos are really inseparable, from one another, they are different facets of the same gem. Stop. It would be a mistake to suppose his ebullience of a gay spirit as the irresponsible fooling of a jester, as Carlyle had done the mistake, stop. But it is the natural expression of a hypersensitive man who laughed to prevent tears, unquote, stop, para. Living in the age of romanticism and having such friends as Wordsworth and Coleridge, Lamb could not but be a deeply imaginative writer. Indeed, he has the imagination of a poet which finds expression through the medium of prose. It is with the eye of a poet that he looked upon things and added to them, quote, the light that was never on land or sea, unquote, so that passing through his imagination they become fresh and individual. Sometimes memory supplies him with a theme for an essay, and he uses it as a material for his fancy to play upon. The common streets of London and her well-worn sights he has invested with the glamour of the imagination. He is the great romancer of London streets, (c. the superannuated man, para). The style of Lamb as an exquisite blend of rare elements. Its variety is astonishing. It ranges from the plain, businesslike, and conversational to the most colored, musical, and poetical. But whatever its technical perfection, the genius of the writer is always adequate to the occasion, revealing the author's meaning to us either with the copious wealth of images or with the directness of a well-aimed blow. Introduction. Dream Children, a Reverie first appeared in the London Magazine in January 1822 and was included in a volume of essays published by the proprietors of the London Magazine in 1823, page 65, under the simple title of Elia, the essays that have appeared under that signature in the London Magazine. Para. The occasion of the essay was the death of John Lamb, the elder brother of the author, in 1821. John Lamb, the elder brother, was apparently careless as to the comfort of his brother and the mentally afflicted sister Mary, yet Lamb always retained a strong affection for him. This is most pathetically expressed in the essay. Analysis of the essay. 1. Lamb tells his dream children stories about his grandmother, Mrs. Field. She lived in a great house in Norfolk, whose owner has shifted to a new fashionable house, leaving the house in her charge. She was very good and religious and kind to grandchildren, whom she brought to the house during school vacations. She was not afraid of ghosts. In her teens, she was esteemed as the best dancer in her countryside, but later on, cancer bent down her body, though it could not affect her cheerfulness. Her funeral was attended by all the poor and some of the gentry of the locality because she was so good. 2. Lamb tells them how he spent his time when he visited the house in his school holidays. Lamb spent most of his time by himself, as he was very fond of solitude and retirement from his early days. He roamed about in the empty halls, enjoyed the beauty of the bus in the drawing room, walked about in the garden, enjoying the sweet scent of flowers and fruits, or watching in the fish pond the sport of the small fishes. 3. He tells the story of his elder brother John Lamb. As a child, he was handsome and spirited, fond of riding and hunting. He loved the young brother very much and used to carry him over his back for miles together when the latter was lame and could not walk. But later on he himself became lame-footed and had one of his legs amputated. He had died recently, leaving a great void in the life of Lamb. 4. He tells the story of his early love. The dream is shattered. When the children wanted to hear about their dead mother, Lamb told them how he courted Alice Winterton for 7 long years, how she was bashful, capricious, etc. Suddenly he finds that the children are receding further and further from his view and at last melt away. The dream is shattered and Lamb awakes to the reality of life. Word notes, references, etc. elders, those who are senior in age, they, that is the elders, stretch, extend, conception, notion, perception, traditionally, belonging to tradition, that which has passed into tradition. Grandam, Grandama, that is grandmother, page 66. To stretch their ... grandam, to throw their imagination back into the past and to form an idea or picture of a grandfather or grandmother who is long dead and gone. In this spirit, that is, quote, to hear stories about their elders, comma, when they were children, unquote, stop, para. My little ones, these are the children of imagination. This is a pathetic reminder of the fact that Lamb did never marry because of his failure in love for Alice Winterton, as she is called in the essay, her real name being Anne Simmons. Crept, quietly came. They are creations of imagination, hence it took time for the author to form a picture of these shadowy children. Great-grandfather, that is grandmother of father and mother. Field, Mrs. Field, who was the maternal grandmother of Lamb. Lamb spent his childhood and also his holidays at Blecksware, Blakesware, Hertfordshire, where Mrs. Field was the housekeeper to the family of the Plumers. It was in course of one of his holiday visits to Mrs. Field that Lamb fell in love with a young lady, Anne Simmons. Great house in Norfolk. Actually, the house was in Blecksware, quote. The locality of the house is disguised, comma, probably because Walter Plumer, comma, for many years MP for Hertfordshire, was still living, semicolon. Norfolk was selected on account for the title of the ballad, unquote, bracket, Hallward and Heel, bracket closed. They and Papa, the dream children and their father Lamb. Scene, locality, place of occurrence. So at least ... country. That was the belief of the local people. Tragic incidents, pathetic events. They, the people of the place. Para. Lately familiar, recently acquainted. The point is that ballad, quote, the children in the wood, unquote, was unknown to the people for a long time. The ballad occurs in Percy's Reliques, Reliques, a collection of ballads which was published about that time. Ballad, a kind of popular poem dealing with a story and having some definite characteristics. The rhyme of the ancient mariner with which students are familiar is a ballad. Children in the Wood. The full title of the ancient ballad is, quote, The Children in the Wood, semicolon, or The Norfolk Gentleman's Last Will and Testament, unquote, stop. The story is briefly thus. A Norfolk gentleman, master of Wayward Hall, Norfolk, had 2 children, a son and a daughter. At his death he left a will that his little children were to be brought up by his brother, and in case the children died earlier, the uncle was to inherit the property. Now the wicked uncle hired 2 ruffians to murder the children, but they took pity on the children and left them in the wood instead of murdering them. The children soon died of hunger and cold. There was none to bury them. A robin redbreast covered them with leaves. The uncle was punished and died in jail. Page 67. Certain it is true. Carved, C-A-R-V-D, engraved. Chimney piece, the shelf in the fireplace. The whole story ... Robin Redbreast. Till that point of the story where it is sung that the redbreast covered the dead bodies with leaves. The actual lines are, quote, line 1, no burial this pretty pair, line 2, of any man received, comma, line 3, till Robin Redbreast piously, line 4, did cover them with leaves, unquote, stop, text. A foolish rich person, a rich man who purchased the hall, pulled it, demolished the wooden slab on which the story was carved. A marble slab, of modern invention, of up-to-date style. In its stead, stead, in its place on the top of the chimney piece, Alice, the dream girl, called after the imaginary mother, Alice Winterton, put out, expressed. Her dear mother's looks, the eyes of the girl were like her mother's. She looked in the same manner as her mother looked, tender, soft, upbraiding, upbraiding, censuring, comma, reproachful. Here Alice ... upbraiding. A dramatic touch is thus given to the narrative. The reaction of Alice to the narrative of the father that the new master of the house had pulled down the wooden slab containing the story of children was that she thought it good that such a thing had been pulled down. She did not censure the deed of the new master of the house. Though ... it, she was merely the keeper of the house. Yet in some ... too, because the master of the house built a new house elsewhere and never came to the house, committed to her, given in her charge, mansion, large, palatial building. The chief seat of the Plumers was in Gilston, Gilston, adjoining, nearby. County, district, kept up ... house maintained a dignified style, in a certain fashion. Came to decay, was completely ruined. Ornaments, decorations, stripped, taken off and removed. Awkward, ludicrous. Abbey, the Westminster, Westminster, Abbey, Abby, where tombs of kings, great men, etc. are. The old tombs ... Abbey. Another tender touch. The father imagines that he had taken his children to visit the Westminster Abbey one day, where they saw the tombs. Stick, fix, Lady C, a fictitious noble lady. Tawdry, decorated with showy but worthless furniture. Gilt, Gilt, with color like gold. John is the son named after John Lamb, the elder brother of Charles Lamb. Funeral, burial ceremony. Concourse, concourac, crowd. Gentry, noblemen. Psaltery, psaltery. This is inaccurately used for psalter, quote, psalter, unquote, which means the Book of Psalms, psalms, as printed in the Book of Common Prayer. Quote, psaltery, unquote, means a stringed musical instrument. Page 68. The Testament. The New Testament in the Bible, which deals with the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. Spread her hands in token of astonishment. Upright, straight, erect. Graceful, lovely. Esteemed, honored. Involuntary, unintentional. Play ... movement. She was about to dance when she heard that her great-grandmother was a great dancer. Grave, serious. Desisted, seized, bowed her down, bent her body, bend her good spirits, take away her cheerfulness of mind. Stoop, S-T-O-O-P, bend, I think it's a printing mistake, it's band, B-N-D, but it should be bend, B-E-N-D. They were still upright. Though her body was bent down, her cheerfulness of mind did not suffer. Apparition, shadow, gliding, moving slowly. I had my ... me because he was a mere child. Expanded, stretched out. Expanded ... courageous, tried to hide his fear of ghost and look very brave by raising his eyebrows. By myself alone. Bus, B-U-S-T-S, marble statues from head to chest. The tawdry Caesars, emperors of Rome from Augustus Caesar, the nephew of Julius Caesar, to Domitian Caesar. They reigned from 46 BC to 230 AD. Wood ... life again. Those bars were so vivid and lifelike that Lamb imagined as if they were living beings. Turned into ... them. Became motionless with wonder like a statue. Worn out, W-O-R-N-out, old and torn. Hangings, colored screens for the walls. Fluttering, flapping, flying with a sound. Tapestry, window screens with embroidery works. Carved, engraved with figures. Oaken, O-A-K-E-N, made of oak wood. Panels of doors. Gilding, G-I-L-D-I-N-G, painting with golden color. Had almost to myself, was always alone in the garden. Gardening man, gardener. Nectarines and peaches, kinds of fruits. My ever ... pluck them. I never ventured to pluck them. Forbidden fruit, it refers to the temptation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They are forbidden to taste the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Tempted by Satan, they ate the fruit and thus committed the first sin. This fruit is called the forbidden fruit, stop. Lamb here humorously applies the word to mean the peaches and nectarines which he was forbidden to pluck. Strolling about, roaming to and fro. Melancholy looking, with a sad look because of the dark leaves. Which were ... at, which were very showy because of their colors but absolutely tasteless. Basking, warming in the sunshine. Orangery, glass-roofed greenhouse artificially heated for growing orange trees. Orange grows in a Oranges grow in a tropical climate, hence in England, orange trees are cultivated in such glass houses. Page 69. Till I could ... too. Lying in the sun, he thought that he was also like the fruits becoming ripe. This reminds one of the Thoughts in a Garden, a famous poem by Andrew Marvell. Limes, L-I-M-E-S, lemons, grateful warmth, pleasant sunshine. Dance, small fresh water fish. Darted, ran. Sulky, sullen, grave. Pike, large fresh water fish. In silent state, in a dignified silence and without any movement. It is like a king that looks dignified. There, T-H-E-I-R, of the small fishes. Busy, idle, frivolous and yet engrossing. Diversions, amusements. impertinent, insolent, friskings, running to and fro, flavors, smell, baits, baits, temptations, slyly, cunningly, deposited, placed, slyly, plate. Hearing that these fruits are, quote, forbidden, unquote, comma, John placed the fruits he was going to take on the plate and stopped eating. Meditated, contemplated, planned, dividing with her, share with Alice, relinquish, abandon, irrelevant, out of place. Both seem irrelevant. Hearing that the fruits are forbidden and their father was not very fond of the fruits in the garden, both gave up the idea of eating the grapes because they liked to imitate the father who in childhood took greater delight in watching fishes in the pond than eating the fruits. Heightened, raised, here emotional. John Lamb, the author's elder brother, whose recent death was the occasion of this essay. Spirited, bold, a king us, a king or leader of the children. Moping, moping, being fond of solitude or retirement, here remaining silent. Mettlesome, spirited. Imp, imp, mischievous child. Any out, that is, any hunter was out. John was also fond of hunting. Fent up, confined. He had boundary. He was so spirited that he did not like to remain confined to the house, but wanted to stir out always. Estate, stage of life. Man's estate, manhood. I was a lame-footed boy. This is willful mystification. Actually, Lamb was not lame-footed, but he had peculiar slow steps while walking, placing his soul on the ground at once. Make allowance for, show consideration to, show consideration to, considerate, sympathetic. Such a distance death. The same idea recurs in the superannuated man, para 9. Bore his death, patiently received his death. Haunted me, visited my mind frequently. Take it to heart, allow it to affect me. Missed him, keenly felt his want. Crossness, fit of anger. Rather than again, rather than lose him. Took off his limbs, amputated one of his legs. Their battle on. Small black badge of mourning worn by them. Prayed me uncle, because it was too painful for them to hear it. Their pretty dead mother. Here we come to the most pathetic part of the story. These children are called the, quote, might have beens, unquote, comma. So also is their mother, page 70. Persisting, continuing in his efforts. Courted, would, WWED. Sought for marriage. Alice W-N. Alice Winterton, the fictitious name under which Lamb alludes to his early love, and Simmons, the quote and unquote of his sonnets. Anne Simmons married Bartram, a pawnbroker. Coyness, bashfulness. Difficulty, quote, an attitude of aloofness, comma, an unwillingness to respond to a lover's advance, comma, backwardness, unquote, stop. This is the Latin sense of the word. Denial, rejection. Representment, reproduction in another form. looked at representment. That is, the soul of the mother seemed to be reproduced in the eyes of the girl. In other words, the girl's eyes seemed a replica of the mother's eyes. Fainter, more indistinct, receding, withdrawing, features, faces, without speech. Though silent, they seemed to be telling me some words through silence. Their silence was more eloquent than speech. Bartram, Bartrum. Bartram was a pawnbroker of Leicester Square, London, when married Anne Simmons. We are nothing. We are shadows having no substance. And dreams, dream children. Tedious shores. It is not shores which are tedious, but those who wait on the shore that are tedious. Lethe, L-E-T-H-E, the river of forgetfulness in Hades, H-A-D-E-S, according to Greek mythology. It corresponds to the, quote, Baitarani Nadi, unquote, of Hindu mythology. Quote, Lethe, unquote, in Greek means oblivion. As the souls of the dead pass to the Hades, within bracket, hell, they drink the water of the river, which makes them completely forget their past life on earth. The Platonic idea is that these souls wait upon the shore of Lethe till after the lapse of many ages they become reborn. Virgil in Aeneid, the great epic, refers to this idea in Canto 6, lines 713 to 715, quote, line 1, souls, destined to inhabit. Line 2, a second body, sit by Lethe's stream, Line 3, quaff, Q-U-A-F-F, opiate, draughts of long oblivion, stop, unquote. We have existence. We are born on earth. A name, like John, Alice, etc. Quote, bachelor armchair, unquote. It is an oft-quoted expression meaning the easy chair on which the bachelor sits and beguiles his lone, weary hours. Faithful, beloved. Bridget. This is the fictitious name given to Lamb's elder sister. This sister had, in a fit of insanity, a family disease, killed her mother and wounded the father with a table knife. The knife was snatched by Charles Lamb only when it was too late. Mary was confined to a madhouse, but Lamb got her released on personal bond and looked after the mad sister all through his life. Mary has frequent fits of insanity. Page 71. Unchanged, in an indifferent manner because she knew nothing of the sweetly sad dream of her brother. John L. James Elia. The elder brother John Lamb, whom Lamb often calls under the fictitious name of James Elia. Elia is the pen name under which Lamb wrote his brilliant essays called Essays of Elia. Gone forever, dead and gone. Next section, questions and answers.